Good morning, everyone. Please rise and join us as we give the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bostic?
Here.
Mr. Jackson?
Here.
Mr. Barlow?
Here.
Thank you. Public comment period. Chair recognizes Joe Jackson.
Yes, Dutch Road. Last meeting, a lot of the conversation was about the roads in the budget for next year. And I've been doing a lot of thinking about that. I for one, would love to see all the roads in good repair and safe for the citizens of the township. But as I recall, Cornwall owns about 700 acres of ground in the valley here. And there's new development to come in. And so I don't know what the status is on that, when they plan on starting, I don't know whether any of this, but when they do that, they're going to be kind of putting in water treatment plants, they're going to be putting in sewer treatment plants, and they're going to be putting in all the interior roads. And they're going to have heavy equipment running up and down Petcher Road. I don't know what the number is in the budget to repair Petcher Road, and even though I live on it, I wouldn't want to see it repaired and then have it torn up with all of that and have to be spend money again. So that's just my concern about it, and I don't think it agrees with my husband, but that's my
I
thing.
beg your pardon.
But thank you very much.
Thank you.
And sorry, I have a cold, so it's hard to talk.
Public comment period. Anyone else wish to say anything?
Chair, just public comment.
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, if there are no other speakers for public comment period, we'll move on. And you ought to, as always, if you have a question, you can ask it in the meeting. So. Supervisor comment period. Mr. Barlow, or Mr. Jackson, excuse me, trying to go in the rule.
Reverse seniority, backwards alphabetical order. Only comment I got is our e-cycle program took place last Saturday. It was a raving success. We had a couple of, we had one person from the Glatterfield and Vince G. was down there, man, the fort, and went without any hiccups at all. So that seems to be working out pretty well. Several people said they're really concerned about seeing the old TVs and ditches and on the side of the roads. We're happy that it's being conducted, and I don't know what the plan is for the future, but I'm sure there'll be more. Well, when it comes to other comments have to do with stuff that's already on the agenda.
Okay. Before we move on to Mr. Barlow's comments, I want to thank you, Bob, for helping to organize that recycle event. And Mr. G made the comment to me that he said, if we don't put this stuff up in the recycle program, he said people are just going to bury it on the property because there's no other place to get rid of it. So, thank you for doing that. Mr. Barlow, you have a comment?
I want to thank Brian for that. That truck is awesome. Nice job on that truck and the color of the truck and all. Also, did get back some comments from the residents up on Cove Hollow. I wanted to thank you again for going up there and mowing back the roadsides, and they were really appreciative of that. So, again, really thank you for that too. That also the rest of my comments can go on there too.
Okay, thank you. I just have, I didn't have anything to say until a couple minutes ago when an individual stopped into the office as I was doing payroll, and he's working part-time for this Census Bureau, which is going to be coming up next year. And I invited him to stay and speak at the meeting, but he said he was not allowed, that there were other people designated to come speak at public meetings. So we're gonna arrange, he gave us some contact information, we're gonna arrange for a person to come and explain how important the census, next year's census is. And also he gave us some information here if you want to apply online to work for the census team.
You say it was around $15, 15 something.
$15.50 an hour.
$15, $15, you want to do that, I have some flyers, you can pick up, take the contact.
Yeah. So if you have an interest in that, we have these flyers up here at the front desk. All right. Moving along to expenses. As the board approved, has the board reviewed the invoices from October 2nd through October 19th. I'm sorry, yeah, 15th, October 15th.
I've reviewed them and make a motion that we accept them.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. As the board reviewed payroll from September 29th through October 12th. And if so, do I have a motion to approve said payroll?
I have reviewed and approved the payroll for this month.
Second.
Okay. Thank you both. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Township Department Reports section. Road Department, Brian?
All righty, as you all know, the truck's in. Still have the pipe over McLaughlin to do. I'm trying to arrange that with Mickey when he's got some spare time to get that in. Question for the supervisors, there was a woman stopped here yesterday asking about getting salt, a 5-gallon bucket of salt. I told her the answer was no, she could not get it. Well, we've done it in the past, and Carolina said, well, you can come ask the supervisors. But I just wanted to ask you guys' opinion of it, that you want to tell them no, or, I mean, if we let everybody get salt, we're gonna be buying salt for the residents.
They can get salt anywhere. I don't know why.
Okay, well,
I'm glad you told me. Speaking for myself, yeah.
So for me, I agree. I think if we get our liquid fuels funds mixed up and cause anguish down the road,
okay.
and it is available.
I want to make sure that's where we all stand on that. I got some prices on decals for the new truck. The ones that's on the old truck, I guess y'all remember what that is, the yellow circle with the bell in it. They want $250 to install them on the truck. I called the place in Waynesboro that did the police car. Now, this would just be the words Liberty Township. I got a picture here. It'd be in silver. They want $120 to make them and install them.
For those of us who have good eyesight and are not colorblind.
So just wondering which way you want to go with that.
How much is this?
120.
120.
I'm fine with just have the Liberty Township on the silver. I would make a motion to review that.
I would concur and second that motion.
Yeah, I agree. All in favor? Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, one other thing is, Mickey asked me to get a price on, well, he was out with me looking at roads the other day, and we went and looked at what they call fog seal on roads, and we went and looked at some of the other townships that have them. And what it is, it's an oil-based, it's oil-based, but it's like a tar. They spray on the road, and it's on top of the road, and it dries in 10 minutes, so they do one lane at a time. And it seals everything. I mean, it seals the stones in the road, no tar comes up through, the oil underneath, I mean, it seals everything. So I got a price to do topper that we've just chipped, and, because they recommend on newer chip roads. they'll come in and sweep it and put this down for $5,500. But they need to know, because it's getting late in the year, they need to know now if we want to do it, because they're getting ready to wrap up for the year.
You know, when Brian and I looked at that, Holland Township and Cumberland had went to this new seal over top. And like I said, we did go out and look at some of those roads. And that extends the life of the road, well, how long was it?
Another 3 years. on top
Another
of
3
it.
years on top of
5 or
just
7 they're expecting.
I told him I thought that was a great idea if you're gonna seal it with a rubber over top of it, to keep water from getting down inside of it and tearing it up. I mean, that's almost a no-brainer, if you want to extend the life of the roads. If you're talking from 5 years, now you're talking 8 years, life expectancy of that road is 3 to 5.
But you should not do it on like Petcher Road the way it is now.
Well, you can,
You can, yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
but you want to fix the base repair first. I mean, you don't want to just, because if you just spray it on, it's really, I mean, it'll seal the road, definitely seal the road. But I mean, if you don't fix the base, it's going to come back through when the road moves.
You say you have been up and looked at this stuff? And
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
It's something that few townships have been doing for a couple of years now, but liquid fuels just added it on.
Yeah, they added
So
on.
you pay for it with liquid fuels now.
If you want to look at it, if you go over to 116 and take a left on Car Hill Road.
Cargill Road.
Starting as soon as you turn on Car Hill Road, that whole entire road has been followed.
Highland Town.
That's how it comes.
Okay.
Cumberland did it, I don't know if you go to Gettysburg, Cumberland did a lot of theirs, so they look black now, it's a black color oil they put down. And then they put the yellow stripes on it, it really shows up, I'll tell you, but yeah.
Sounds very good to me.
That's the question, do we have enough of left in liquid fuels to do top it?
Right now, we're not zero in liquid fuels.
Oh.
We spend a lot of money, but we have money.
Well, we have reserves.
reserves.
We're going to be,
And that's what he's asking, if we want to do top it, if we want to do that, they want to do it this week?
Well, I don't know when they would do it, but he needs to know right away before they close up for the winter.
we're, part of our discussion later on is going to be what we're going to do with the liquid fuels projects next year and the roads and so forth. And so we're taking money out of our reserve accounts to do some things. We could take it out of, if we're all in agreement it's a good idea, we might as well go ahead and do it.
Well, I will make the motion that we do it. This is going to give us another 3 years extension on that road. We just put all that money into it. We're not going to do that.
Give us some good, it's a relatively short road here on top of it, and we can see if we all like it.
Oh, yeah, we definitely can gauge it. We want to do the other roads
Yeah,
going forward.
it'd be a good test case.
Yeah.
Do we need to do any bids for that, or?
Yeah, it's under $10,000.
Thank you.
Is that correct?
Yes, under 10,000.
Okay.
I can
So
motion
you
that
did,
we-
Mr. Barley made the motion to go ahead and do the, what's it called, fog
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 seal.
seal.
seal? And what's the company that would be doing it?
It'd be a haymaker.
And Haymaker, with Haymaker on top of it.
So I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you. Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
All right. Thank you.
I'm not sure anyone else around here does that either. So,
That's the only place I've heard so far.
Good.
That's about all I got till we get into the other stuff.
Okay. All right. Report from Secretary Treasurer.
I just had one thing, as you know,
Pardon?
do you want to go ahead and talk about that? We did.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I just, want to know what the plan was for the white truck now. The reason we bought a new truck was that one was costing us money all the time. So, I mean, I don't know what you want to do. I took it to get a load of cold mix the other day and had an issue with it. One of the turbo hose blew off, which is not a big deal, but like we said, I had to fix it to get back, you know.
I make a motion, we advertise it and put it up for sale. Sealed bid.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The only comment I would make on that though is, do we have a set price on that? Did you get a set price? The minimum we take, because we have put a lot of money in that truck. And if we needed to, we could use it for a backup plow truck in the winter if we're not going to get the right amount of money for it. I mean, we don't want to start with $2,000
have you budgeted for repairs on that truck for next year, if we keep it?
We would have to do that.
I guess I have a question, who was it, I've never sold a truck before, and you guys sold
Well, we could-
trucks before, do you know how you?
We can
normally sell?
advertise it in the paper like we've done in the past and just set it out front, or you can, there's a municipal bid, you can put it on there. I don't know if that's
Which
what
way
you-
does the board want to go with this, I guess?
Well, the last time we did it, we got a lot more than we thought we were gonna get, so maybe we ought to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Advertise it, but you want to set a minimum, is that what you're saying?
Well, I think what we should do is get an estimate of what the value of it is and set a minimum for that.
Who can give us an accurate estimate of the value?
I don't know, I mean, we can find some car lot, I guess, or something.
How would you pay?
The Ford dealership said just he come up with a Porsche.
What would you pay for the last dump truck you bought that was about the same condition?
You don't wanna know.
Pardon?
You paid a lot.
No, I did not.
Oh, it's not for a dump truck.
For what I bought, no.
No, but your
I paid
personal
$500 for the one I bought.
$500, I think that's about where we're.
Well, my only comment would be is if you're gonna set a minimum, don't, you can do that in executive session.
Yeah.
Because set a minimum of 2,000, like you said, last time you got a lot more than you thought it was worth. But set a minimum of 2,000 to get people not going much higher than that.
Right.
Because if, well, they think it's worth 2,000, so why am I gonna pay 5 for it?
Right.
So just, you know,
Well, I agree also, in selling houses, what the new procedures to put a very low minimum on it, like if you're selling a house for 300,000, you advertise it for 75,000, and then people come flocking and overbid.
well, well, yeah,
Maybe.
but I don't know if that works. Then that's a good analogy for an older truck.
I don't know. I'm saying we want to get rid of it.
Brian, does the snow plow go with the old truck?
It wouldn't do us any good to keep it, we didn't have enough.
Okay,
So.
Because the new one came with new plow and spreader.
Yeah, that's a good point. The plows were something.
oh, yeah.
No, we could act, the way you write it up in the bid, you know, you could say, you know, with the right to reject any and all bids or whatever, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I think our last truck was sold to a commercial firm that had a parking lot they wanted to clear of
Well,
snow.
they no longer have it, trust me. It didn't last long
The
here.
truck, one snowstorm.
They realized what they bought.
I sold that truck.
This one's about 10 years past its.
Their mechanic wasn't too bright.
Yeah, it's only been making an offer, he did. It was a good thing.
He couldn't even drive the
It was
truck.
$3,000, it was $5,000 when we were reading
When we
that.
advertise, who's ready?
Wendy's got a question here.
So when do you want to advertise it, when do you want to close the bid, how long do you want to advertise it, what do you want to do? Do you want to wait till you have an executive session to set a minimum price, or what's your, we made a motion, do you want to wait till the next meeting?
I'd like to proceed as expeditiously as possible.
But I just have a bunch of questions that kind of answer.
It's 2 weeks, so I guess we could do it in 2 weeks.
So by the next meeting, we'll get a minimum, we'll have an executive session.
We can get a appraisal
price,
on the truck.
and draft up a thing.
I don't
Well,
think we should go with the minimum.
You can advertise it for this meeting on the 6th.
Okay, to open it,
For sealed
Bid
bids, we
openings.
will receive.
okay?
Between now and then, if you want, Mr. Bosico seems to be saying he doesn't want to set a minimum. Between now and then, if you want, you can determine whether you want to set a minimum. If you do, then we can have an executive session right at the beginning of our next meeting and say, what's the minimum?
Okay,
And then,
right before the opening.
right
Okay.
before you open the bids, then you know what the minimum is.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, sealed bids, with the opening at the November 6th meeting.
Or you can, like Brian said, you can just advertise it, and you should advertise it, you reserve the right to
Okay.
reject any and all bids, and then you don't even have to set a minimum, and if it comes in at 1,000, then you just reject the bid.
That's a good idea, I
Alright.
think.
Yeah, that way you don't have to worry about getting it appraised, but Mr. Barlow wants to get it appraised, which, it's up to you, I don't, whatever you want.
All right, so we'll get it out this week, advertise. Okay.
I think you should just advertise it, and then what you do between now and then.
Okay, you clear now, Wendy?
Yeah, we
Question?
voted, everyone voted yes, correct?
Yes.
We interrupted your report.
All right. My report was, as you know, we did get the new truck on Monday, and I needed someone to sign the paperwork, and Mr. Jackson signed the paperwork, so I am looking for a motion from the board to retroactively appoint Mr. Jackson as the person to sign the paperwork for the truck, if I could get that.
Otherwise, I get the truck?
Otherwise, he's gonna run off.
Well, I make a motion that we approve Mr. Jackson's signature for accepting the new truck.
Second.
We got free donuts.
I never saw any of them.
Come by.
I see him.
Motion made and seconded.
I can say, I'll definitely see where he went.
Motion made and
First time I've
seconded.
ever seen a bacon donut.
Yes.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you. Anything else?
Okay.
Old business, moving on to old business, treasurer bond claim status.
Nothing new, I left a message for her this morning. I wanted to call her sooner than today, but I had a lot of stuff going on in a couple other townships, just got real busy. But I did try to call her today. She didn't call me back.
Is she-
forwarded me.
And any of our money yet?
I don't know, I haven't, I had the one conference call with her and Mr. Mills, and that was it. I haven't heard from her. Like I said, I had it on my list of things to do for last week, but I just had a lot of other stuff coming up, and you know how it goes sometimes, these non-emergency
I mean, I
things
never-
keep going down the list.
Yeah,
And that one did till today, so sorry. I will definitely try to call her before, get in touch with her before the next meeting, so I have something to report.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Item B, under old business, preliminary budget review. Okay, last time we authorized the budget to be advertised on or posted on the website. And that was done, and then we got we got our state road representative to come out and look at the road projects that we were considering for the future, and to give us some price estimates and that sort of thing. So that was the point of contention, I think, with the adoption of the budget, how much road repairs we're looking at, that sort of thing. But we've got more information now on what needs to be done. However, we just were delivered all this morning. So, I don't know if the board just wants to take some time to review those numbers and discuss this further, or what?
I'd like to. I've been working on this.
You got something, Josh?
Yeah.
I put it in your PowerPoint.
It's like this.
As I had said at the earlier meeting, this is a discussion of an opinion session, a discussion among us.
Can you hold on a second? Mr. Barlow, was that your seat when you sat down today? You didn't see that
Is
thing?
it that one up there?
Here, I have another one.
I saw a hat.
Here. No, here.
Thank you.
You can't wear that.
No.
The general plan is we're going to discuss the various aspects of the budget, and this meeting and next meeting, and hopefully be able to make a decision official decision by the 15th of November, the mid-month meeting. And the only real issue outstanding is the amount of tax increase, if any, and what we would do with the money if we do increase the taxes. And in preparation for that, Wendy put together a little schedule that shows how much, well, I asked her to do it, show how much we would have available to spend on roads, given a few parameters. And then down below that is what road projects we would like to undertake and the dollars and amounts that they would cost. And I think, Karen, could you pass this a copy for anybody who'd like to take a look at it? And I'll just take a minute and go through it if we got time to do that, I guess. It gets kind of complicated. I don't know if everybody wants one or if there are enough copies for everybody.
That's right, I can make some more.
If you're not interested in looking at all these numbers, then don't bother to take a copy, but if you are, I figure. But essentially what it amounts to is we've got 3 proposals up here from the supervisors on possible tax increases. We got from John Bostic, 0. We got from me, 1/8 of a mil. We got from Mickey, 1 mil. Those are pretty wide ranging differences. And while he's running off the copy, the revenue from a 0 tax increase, of course, is 0. The revenue we would expect from a 1/8 of a mil increase is about $18,000. And the revenue from a 1 full mil increase would be $162,000. And the effect on our tax situation is that you have, as I stated it incorrectly at a previous meeting, I'll try to state it correctly, and I'm sure Wendy will advise me if I'm doing it wrong. 1 mil increase is a $100 on a $100,000 house. A 1 mil increase would be $100 a year. So if the average house is $200,000, it'd be $200 a year. So if you go with Mickey's calculation, 1 mil for the average house, you have to pay $200 more a year. 1/8 of a mil would result in what we did last year, which is about $12 a year. And at the last year's session, we did informally discuss the possibility of having 1/8 last year and in each of the next 4 years. One of our residents suggested that as a compromise to a stalemate we had at that time. And of course, 0 is pretty easy to explain, 0. The sheet of paper here shows our,
On your increase here is .1125,
yeah,
that's less than an 8.
it's slightly less.
An 8 is
Yeah,
.125.
you're correct. We're off by 100th of a percent. That's, this is the actual number that we used. It's close to an 8,000.
Yeah.
And we're talking now in round numbers pretty much since we're talking about projections. But anyway, under that, it shows, as of January 1, what we would have available for investment in anything, but specifically in the roads, since that's the open subject. Operating reserves, we would have $250,000. We have more than that now, but we have commitments between now and the end of the year that will work it down to $250,000. We have talked in the past about how much we should maintain in reserves, and the best advice we've got is about a half a year's budget. So we have put in a figure for $180,000. We don't want our reserves, emergency day, rainy day fund, emergency reserves of $180,000. We don't want to drop below $180,000. And that was one of the parameters in putting these numbers together. We have an item in there called capital reserve. Capital reserve consists really of 2 things. When we paved Glad Hill Road, we withheld $71,000 from the paving company because they didn't do the job in accordance with the specifications. And their comment, or our comment, was that the road might not hold up as long as it would otherwise. So we take the money, the $70,000 and $1,000 we withheld from them, and stuck it in a reserve just in case the road falls apart. And so we probably should leave it there. That's what the thinking was. In addition to that, we got a payment on the truck. So the total capital reserve fund is pretty well set at $93,000. Next is the general fund. Under no tax increase, we would have to pay $44,000 out of our general fund to cover our normal operating expenses. Out of the .11 or 1/8 of a mil increase, we'd have to take 25,000 out of our reserves. And out of if we increase our taxes by a whole mill, we'd have 100,000 of it extra available we wouldn't have had under the other two options. So if we maintain the operating reserve, the 93,000 capital reserve, and maintain an operating reserve of 180,000, the bottom line there is what we would have available under our best estimate at this time for investment in the roads. And obviously, if we raise the taxes the most, we'd have $200,000 available. And if we go with John's figure of 0 tax increase, we would have 56,000 that we'd be able to invest in roads. And under my suggestion, or the one we adopted last year, 1/8 of a mill, we'd have 75,000. So that's our best estimate now as to what we have available to work on roads. Now, down below is a list of all the road projects we would like to do. And I'll just run them down very quickly. The numbers are there. Pave the parking lot, 15,000. Bullfrog Road, base repair and double tar and chip, 28,000. The north half of McLaughlin Road, 133,000 with reclaiming and a finish coating of blacktop and shoulder work, 133,000. The south end of Bullfrog Road, about a half a mile, double tar and chip and some base repair, 20,000. Irishtown, base repair and double tar and chip, 25,000. Brent Road, we have to base repair, then 2 inches of blacktop and repair the shoulders, 50,000. Petcher Road, Petcher's a pretty long road. The first and smallest part is replace the pipes and do shoulder work, and that's 15,000. Base repair, double tar and chip is 10,000, and to do it right, that is super pave, that grind up the old road, put all of the grind out parts down on the road.
No, that's wrong.
Pardon?
It's an inch of scratch and then 2 inches on top of that with fabric.
That's what I thought I said.
No, you said regrind.
Where do you get the scratch?
It's blacktop, or level, it's a leveling
Silk
course.
level.
You don't grind up the road.
You don't grind up the road?
No.
Okay, I stand corrected on that. They put a leveling course on,
I think you'd be correct.
and then that's all right. And paving fabric and a super pave on top of that, and the price is $362,000. And as you can see down at the bottom there, we've got $298,000 if we do not do that super job on Petcher Road, and $651,000 if we do. And that all compares to the amounts that are available. And obviously, even under the biggest tax increase, we would only do a third of that. So those are figures that we're looking at now, subject to discussion amongst the supervisors and for any comments that we might have from the public. And now, as the time to make them, and also at the November meeting. But after that, we're going to have to make a decision on what we're going to do.
Well, I would say, one out with interjects inside and the one proposing the 1 mil tax increase.
You what?
The 1 mil tax increase. And I'll just take it line by line, just like you just did too. As far as the parking lot,
I didn't miss the first part of what you said.
I'm gonna take it line by line. just
What
like-
about if you said, oh, you're going to talk about the 1 mil?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
and what the money, the proposed 1 mil tax increase is coming. As you said, it's $162,000. My proposed budget is $205,000 for road repair in our township. It actually comes up to $220,500 if we do the roads that I'm proposing, because Petcher Road, as Brian and I did go out last week and we looked at Petcher. Petcher Road's gonna take us at least 2, if not 3 years to do correctly. We shouldn't do anything to that road unless we're gonna do it right. Because we're just throwing money away if we do anything else. So that Petcher Road, as far as I'm concerned, is off. Irishtown, we had a resident here from Irishtown that said he'd prefer to leave the potholes in Irishtown. So, if the residents on Irishtown say they don't want the road done, then That's $25,000, we don't have to worry about it. They came in and said they didn't want their road done. So, that's on them, so when they start complaining because the road is falling to pieces, so you guys could be wanted to do that. So, taking those two off, $205,000 would be what we have with the tax increase at 1 mil to do road work. To actually do the roads would be $220,500, so we're talking $15,000. But anyhow, the parking lot, the reason the parking lot, this has been on the agenda for 5 years, for this parking lot paving deal, as far as I know. Our residents, many times when I was at the polls, when I've been out talking to our residents, have said, we don't come to your meetings. You wonder why we don't come to the meetings? We don't come to your meetings because we're elderly, we're in wheelchairs, we're in walkers, and we can't maneuver those things on gravel. We just can't do it. If you guys would make an effort and pave that, we would try to come out and be a part of the township. So, we got a price for $15,000 to do our parking lot per request of our residents.
What would paving it consist of? What do you
This
have?
blacktop about out here, just this part about it.
Put it on top of what's there, dig out what's there, how was
Just
that?
paving on top of it.
They would have to grade it.
You grade it, but don't
Whatever
pave
they-
on top of it.
Just smooth it, put 2 inches or whatever it is on there.
Yep, 2-inch base on top of it. Yeah, so that's what they would do with that. Bullfrog Road, base repair that needs to be done on Bullfrog Road, of course it is what it is. We put a lot of money in Bullfrog Road in 2008, and now it's time to start addressing some of the issues on Bullfrog. McLaughlin is the big one. McLaughlin is our rep, has also agreed with Brian and myself. That road needs to be reclaimed just like we did with Stoops and just like we did with Paul. It's at that stage that we can't save that road any other way except reclaiming it. And that's going to be $133,800. The longer we let it go, the longer it just continues to get worse and worse. And then to double tar and chip the bottom, the other half is $20,000. Like I said, and then you run down here to Brent Road. Brent Road hasn't had any action done on that road for a long time. We've been out to that road many times. Even our new zoning officer has been out there too with water issues and runoff. That road is totally been compromised. Brian feels, and so does the guy feel, that we can get away with doing the shoulders on that and putting a 19mm top, 2-inch top over top of that one, and cut the ditches on that road. That would give us some longer life expectancy than that. So, Brian and I had sat down a few years back and did a 5-year plan on our roads. Unfortunately, none of that's been done until this past year. So we're behind the 8 ball. That's what we're at. Right now, we're on catch up. And if we don't start doing something with our roads, then we're done. I mean, it's going to get deeper and deeper as you look. If we get everything that needs to be done, we're at $650,000. That's how far we are behind the 8 ball. And our tax increase in our township, I'm not a gamer on tax increase by no means, but a one-time tax increase will bring our roads back up to where they need to be. And we don't touch do a tax increase for another 10, 15 years, whatever it may be. The residents I've talked to, they're willing to pay the extra $100 or $200, whatever it is, to get their roads repaired. So, and also, not only is that tax increase including the roads, it also includes another 20-hour part-time police officer in our township in there, and also to bring up our police department needs new computers, they need new tasers, the police department wants new tasers, and so that's also projected in this tax increase in application.
Okay, would you repeat again which ones, I just put a check mark on the ones you recommending here?
Parking lot, Bullfrog, McLaughlin, and Brent Road, and Irishtown, if we wanted to do Irishtown, that's, as the residents have stated, they don't really care. Well, if we want us to keep it down the road, really, we can.
That isn't what I remember them saying.
Well,
They,
Well,
they
I
said
remember,
that,
no,
well, let's do one at a
That's what they
time.
said. They said they prefer to keep the potholes in the road because it slows down people from speeding.
no, they said fix the potholes, but don't repave it to discourage speeding.
All of a sudden, we can review the.
I was the one that said leave the potholes in Wenshaw Road.
Well, there was a husband and wife, and the one said she wanted it fixed, and the other one said he liked it the way it was because it slowed traffic down.
That's exactly what the comments was.
Okay.
And anytime you have any questions, you can always go to YouTube and
So-
review.
So you took Brent Road off for your list?
No,
No?
Irishtown,
Irishtown.
Irishtown and Petra.
John, I also remember them saying that they wanted it left, that what work had been done is actually sped up the traffic, and they don't like that as much.
I
And I understand.
thought I remembered them saying patch the holes, but don't repave them.
We already passed the whole.
Yeah.
If you don't do anything with Irishtown, how much is it gonna degrade more than if we went ahead and fixed? Because to me, that's, we need to do what's smart
That's right.
for that
You got
road.
it. That's exactly right. It's gonna cost us $25,000 to go ahead and fix it now. If we wait 2 years from now, we might be looking at $100,000.
So the fact that residents
Because
may
we're not
not
gonna
want potholes fixed shouldn't drive our decision. We should be
Oh,
doing
no.
what's right, what's the most cost-effective way to maintain that road.
Right, and the most cost-effective source to do it now, which is $25,000. So we can kick it down the road for 3 more years and reclaim the whole road at $100-some thousand.
Now, does the same hold true though for Petra? Because it seems like no matter what, you're gonna be spending a lot of money on that, whether you do it now or 2 or 3 years.
Well, the thing with Petra is $362,000 on that, and what we're gonna have to do is, Mr. Jackson, I mean, we can't raise the taxes to cover that. But if we do a 1 mil tax increase, that's gonna also generate the same amount of income, extra income next year. So we can put that into Petra Road over the next couple of years. We can put that money into Petra. We already know it's gonna cost us at least $400,000 to fix Petra Road and do it right. Now, what he's talking about too on Petra Road is you put a membrane down on top
Between the two layers.
between the 2 layers, not like what we did up at Glad Hill, but you put this membrane down that keeps all that the
Keeps it from
weeds,
moving.
and yeah, keeps it from moving, and keeps the weeds and stuff that are growing up through the center of the road now, and keep that all down, and then you put another base on top of that, that is a new application too, that
Well, it's fairly new, it's been around for a few years.
it's been around for a few years, but it's a new application on using the same base that you have. Instead of reclaiming the road, you put this membrane down and then put another base on top of it. Yes, and it thickens up your base, whatever you got left.
Judy Hogan.
Oh, I was gonna ask what Mr. Lisco asked, because at the last meeting, a pretty good case was made for doing Petra and how disturbed it was. I don't live in this part of the township, and in fact, some people think I don't even live in the township. So I rarely use the roads over here, but I would, personally, I hate tax increases, but it has something to do with safety. And I'm all for safety, and, you know, I would support a tax increase of 1 mil. Get this work done as much as we can. My other question though is, how many people use these roads? I mean, I hardly know where Irishtown Road is. How many people, is that, Petra's a heavily used road.
I use Irishtown.
Anybody that hears that?
Emmitsburg, I ride Emmitsburg.
It used to be backward in Emmitsburg.
Is it going to Boyle? Is that all?
Yeah,
it goes all-
I know where it is now, okay.
Resident.
Goes from Emmitsburg that way.
The Maryland side is nice.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Yeah,
over it this morning.
they keep putting, on top of that, they keep fixing it.
As a proponent of zero tax increase, I want to say, we throw the number out, oh, it's $100 for every $100 tax per year for every $100,000 appraised property. Well, how many $100,000 properties do we have in this township? I know mine's not one of them. Probably the average resident is looking at a $300 a year tax increase, if not more. And You know, I remember when we used to have to peel people off the ceiling, because they were paying $35 to have their septic tank on. So, anyway, another thing I'd like to say is, if you read the Township second-class code manual, we have a new board member supposedly coming on next year. He has the right to open up the budget and request more tax increase. And if he were to get support on that, then there would be more tax increases by mid-February of next year. So I'm betting on a zero increase and hedging my interests. Chair recognizes Richard Swag, is that you?
I don't know, somebody who looks like me. Must be my twin brother. Just a point I want to bring up, 1,200,000 tax, we got 1,200 taxpayers in the township roughly?
Yes.
Okay, out of those 1,200, how many of them are living on fixed incomes like me? Just Social Security, no pension, no nothing. All right? I just got my bill from Humana. It just went up that much, almost that much a month. Okay? There are, across the street from me is John Talcott. He's got, what is that driveway, about a quarter of a mile long. He takes care of it himself. It's one person living, well, he's got a couple, but the back road, going back to Stokes Road, around back of him, is one step up from the Appalachian Trail. And he takes care of that himself. And every so once in a while, he drives a truck of gravel. Now, what I understand, I'm going to pay the taxes. Everybody in this room knows if I get the first envelope she gets after I get the tax bill. So I pay my taxes, but I'm here to speak my mind that you can't squeeze water out of a saltine cracker on the Arizona desert at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in July, unless you squeeze real hard. I'm being squeezed, and I just want my opinion held that I'm not for any tax increases. And if the taxes do increase, I appreciate the fact that there's a reason for the tax increase. Logic makes a very good argument for fixing the roads now so we don't have to fix them for twice as much down the pike, okay? But as you pointed out, we don't know what the new supervisor is gonna do to the taxes. And one of my conversations in the neighborhood was, how come taxes never decrease? No, we just increased it, and then we assumed, you just pointed out at this meeting, every year for the next 5 years, 1/8 of a mill tax increase is going to take care of everything. And now we've got one mill tax, which makes perfect sense. I mean, I have to admit, it makes very good sense what you're saying. I'm not arguing with that point. I'm just arguing with the fact that how many residents in this township want to pay for 8 people living on Brent Road?
It's more than that.
It's more than 8, okay,
It's
now.
11 houses.
But it's a dead-end road, okay, that's one. I'm sitting here at the meeting and I hear people on Irishtown Road say, that's okay, just patch it as you go. We're satisfied with that because we don't want speeders. That's just a rough idea of what I remember. I'm saying, as long as One Shelf Road is open, I don't care what the shape of the road is. I live on the road, and speed bumps, you don't need a speed limit sign if the road's tore up, okay? And I won't have to keep weed whacking around the 35-mile-an-hour sign that nobody pays attention to, all right? I just want to speak my mind, and I want to say, I'm going to pay the taxes, whatever you guys come up with. I'm going to find the money somehow, but it is a struggle, and I'm not. It's a democracy, and I have the right to speak my mind, and that's my opinion. How come the people who live on this road ain't sitting in this room while the decision is being made to fix their roads?
One thing I do want to bring to your attention, the new supervisor, if he indeed was even thinking of that, when you can verify this too, we're not allowed to adjust the budget, and which includes taxes, by no more than 25%.
Okay, well,
So he can't come in here and say, you know what, we're going to do 2 mills. He can't do that.
okay. The other thing, that's information I didn't have in my brain. I'll use the computer between my ears, thank you very much. The budget is showing an increase for the elected auditors. That increase is gonna help me pay the taxes. That's all. My wife had to drive to the school district, and the school district paid my wife to drive my son to Waynesboro School. Okay? It's just, for me, it's not gonna affect me that much, because if this budget passes, I'm an elected auditor, and I'm gonna get that pay increase, and that's gonna be 0, because I gotta pay the increased taxes. Just like Medicare just went up 1.6, but my health insurance went up 2.3. You know what you hear what I'm saying? It's not going away. Maybe we're living in the country, maybe people should just drive on country roads at 5 miles an hour. I'm just saying. There's only so much, a person can do, but when I get that tax bill, I guarantee you, that check's gonna be wrote the same day. If it comes on Saturday afternoon when I get the mail, it'll be in the mail on Monday morning if I don't drive it to Natalie. Because I know we need the money. I'm looking at the books as an auditor. So I know what's going on under the water. I got my scuba gear on. It's hard to breathe under there. Just wanted to say, that's what I think about this road situation and spending money on it. Either way, I'm gonna have to put up with it, but at least I spoke my mind.
Point well made. Chair, Cindy Arch has had her hand up. Yes, Cindy.
Did you just say 11,000 people live on Brick Road?
11 houses.
Eleven
I thought you said 11,000.
Yeah.
More than that.
It's not a through road.
Okay, so last year, I sat in here and y'all approved going with this suggestion of the 8 for 4 years or 5 years, whatever it was.
No, we never, we talked, that was proposed, but we legally cannot, what's the word? Pass.
Use your plans for the
We-
tax.
We can't pass a tax and say, it's gonna go up this much for every year. It cannot legally.
Okay, well, you can
It has to be
legally do
voted
it, but
in.
you kind of did it by sitting in here and saying, we're gonna go with an 8. It made more sense to do an 8 over a period of time versus doing it all at one time. So at that point, y'all must have believed that you could get your stuff taken care of with the 8 and increase it to 8, because you did your 8 beginning this year. Right?
We did it once.
Okay, but you just proposed another 8.
Bob was
I'm proposing,
Okay, so you're trying to go along with what you agreed to do last year.
we couldn't really agree to do it.
I know what you were saying,
We
but I know what I
tentatively-
sat in here and listened to.
Tentatively planned to do it, and that's what we did last year.
Okay, so you're tentatively trying to continue what you said last year. So, but you don't think, I'm with you, I don't drive on Brick Road. I rarely drive on Iverstown. And I definitely want to be slow because you got a chief that's actually giving tickets.
Be careful on Stokes Road.
She's on Orchard all the time, but anyway, I'm with you. I really don't want to,
Well,
I just pay my
You
house
hear this is
off.
on video,
Pay my
Tony?
taxes.
One at a time, please, one at a time.
Cindy agrees with me.
I agree.
That's on videotape now.
Better save that one for the archive.
Be careful, something's gonna happen today.
Did you-
Buy a lottery ticket.
Cindy, Did you
Good
have
point.
anything else you wanted to say?
No, I agree with him. I mean, if you're gonna do anything, I'm okay with what you agreed to tentatively do last year, if we have to do anything.
And unfortunately, the thing about the 8th mill, it's not an 8th mill when you break it down to the 16th. It came out last year at $11.25.
Well, that's better than.
$11.25, $11.25 will never fix our roads. Never, never, never. You can keep doing $11.
When am I ever gonna own my house? I paid my house off, and y'all never wanna tax me to death.
No, the school
I mean,
taxes,
seriously.
no, the school taxes to death, not us.
We got
The
a
school
next
taxes.
I have another taxpayer.
Yeah, another tax service.
Mr. Johnson, right?
Bill Johnson from 580 Woodwell Road there. I'm not very smart at things, you know, but I know better than to spend money that I don't have, you know. I mean, if money's not there and we're not using our money that we do have frugally, you know, enough to make the budget work, which don't sound like it's been happening, you know, too much. But I don't know, I haven't been down to look at Brent Road, but Brian said it was passable. And I said, how are they using it now that's passable? And I said, well, Witchoff Road is passable as long as it don't rain. I said, it's like 60 feet wide and 5 feet deep, and I can't get it in or out when it rains. You know?
You need to vote.
And I was surprised that my road's not even on, mentioned on the budget. You know, I brought it up years ago, and Mr. Jackson said, as long as I'm supervisor, it will never be fixed. That's exactly what you said.
No sensible politician would ever say that.
You said right there where you sit down. Nobody did, but you did.
I've grown up
If you
since
call me a
then.
liar, you know, that'd be a different story.
I believe I have a,
That's exactly what you said. It'll never be fixed as long as I'm supervisor. That's what you
I
said.
think he was talking about the pipe.
you know what we're talking about is that culvert down there where the water, it's 4 feet deep when we get a good rainstorm.
At least fix one side of it, you know, to bring it up to where people can travel on it.
At least one side,
How do you fix one side?
maybe a one-lane bridge.
No, he's talking about get out, so he can get out the track road. Now he can
One
go out
end
the
of
other
it,
way,
one
yeah.
end to the other, yeah.
Yeah.
He wants to be able to get to the track road now.
In case I need to go to the hospital or something, it'd be nice to get.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
If you had to swim to get on, it'd be a different story. You know?
Richard, can you bring the
Well,
plane up? Can you bring the plane
But,
up?
but anyway, that road is a private road that goes nowhere. You know, usually when I was brought up, a public road was a road that went somewhere. And that just goes to, you know, residential houses back there, so it shouldn't have been a township road to start with.
No, it's not a private road.
I'm thinking with you. I know it's not a private road, but I think it should have been.
And I'm in favor of zero raising taxes. I mean, it's nonsense. You know, especially when my road's not even in the budget. I mean, I asked the question at least 5 or 10 times of different people, you, and Brian, you know, when was the last time we were charged a chip? Which I'm happy to drive on it the way it is, like he said, you know, raise taxes for what? You know, I can pay it, it's passable. I can wait till the water goes down. I can drive around the holes in the road and everything else, you know, and I'm sure they can do that on Brent Road, or they wouldn't be able to pass. They're passing there now, you know, so why do we have to put out all this money to fix something that a few people, you know, somebody drive with, you know? But, that's just my opinion, but, I saw that.
Also, just to that point, real quick, I'm paying school taxes, I don't have any kids in school, so I understand the reason for taxes and benefiting the community.
Okay.
Just to that point.
I'm gonna raise them up again this year too. That is spent $10 million. And you-
All right, please, I gotta eat lunch.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, because I sit on that school board and every year they raise it to the maximum limit.
Okay,
Every year.
we got a lot of new business to cover today, but one more question.
When you do the parking lot, if we do that, the grading as the parking lot exits the road should be looked at, because if I'm driving my car and I go out to make a
Bottoms
turn, the front end bottoms out, so if I leave here, I drive down around the building or go out or something.
That's what most
That-
people do.
you need to take away the grading on that.
Maybe we should eliminate that entrance at all.
We did.
Well, that may be a solution, but the other thing on the roads in general, I know that there's a backlog, but I think the strategy should really be to look long-term and say, how much do we need to spend every year to keep our roads maintained? I don't know what that number is. And that's the number that the taxes should try to address, is what's the long-term requirement. Then if there's a short-term backlog, take a look into financing the repairs or whatever to get things back up to where they need to be. And then you'd have to build some kind of amount into the budget to just pay off that
That's a good,
short-term adjustment. But I think long-term, it sounds like the budget right now doesn't support the long-term maintenance of the roads. So there does need to be some tax increase.
and that's a great
But I
point.
think to raise it based on all backlog is not the right strategy.
And you're right, Richard. If you look at liquid fuels, we get $77,000 from the state from liquid fuels. That's what we get from the state. The state gives every township, based on how many people they have in their township and how much roads they have, they give them a percentage. And with the expectation or the idea is that the township will match at least the minimum of what they give each year to maintain their roads. So if we did just that, if we just matched them, our yearly budget for our roads should be $150,000 per year to do work on our roads, and it's not. So there is when, like I said, $1 million tax increase, it's 162, it's not 144. So it does give us some leeway to do some, to get some stuff that's behind it, all gets brought up to speed, and then we can get on a 5-year plan where we're working on these roads every 5 years. We're coming back around and we're on rotation and keep these roads where they should be. But first we gotta get them there. We gotta get them there.
I'd like to say we just spent $153,000 on redoing Liberty Hall Road and Stoops Road and tarring and chipping Topper Road out here this year. This year we spent that. We didn't do any repairs the year before. It's a couple different reasons, but so we spent a good amount here recently. Did you have another question, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, not a question, just a statement more or less, basically what I was told before was that, Warball had this development coming and he was gonna fix the roads so nobody was ever gonna do anything to the Winchell Road ever again because Warball was gonna fix it when he builds it. But he may never do it, it turned into a cow path before that.
That's exactly right.
But I, not that I want anything really done to it, but I don't see the point of doing Brent Road too, but I was wondering where the money came from for this truck out here. I didn't even know you could buy the truck.
Thank you very much.
We accrued liquid fuels funds over the years that allowed us to spend over half down payment for it, and we got a loan from DCED for the other portion.
Where's that in the budget? What budget item is that?
That's not in this budget.
It's not in it.
That's last year.
Well,
That's
the only thing you'll see in this budget is the
There's a
yearly
payment.
payment.
Payment of 15,000 is in capital reserve.
It's coming out, actually, it's in the budget.
And see, that's the thing,
But my point is, you can't wait for other people to fix the roads for us. You're making promises to Wormball to let him do what he wants to do in the future. That's what your business, but not, you gotta still take care of the roads. You can't wait for him to do it,
absolutely, absolutely. And Brian, the bottom line is, we're gonna have to start saving money for a new vehicle. We just bought this one here. Now we need to start a plan in 5 or 7 years. We're gonna need to look at planning. We have to do that.
Winchell Road not even on the budget. It's not even mentioned, and it floods to be fair. I got pictures on my phone here.
Again, and that's
6 feet wide and
the
5 feet deep.
and that's the thing we have talked about. We talked about
In this
that.
day and age, that's just about itself.
Winchell Road, to correctly do that's gonna cost us about $300,000 to put a bridge in over that creek. And the thing is, we can't wait for Wormall to do it because then they
Well, I
get.
gotta live with it. I gotta live with the tax increase too. But I can't see paying taxes and nobody cares about my roads.
I think that's true.
Okay,
But anyway, you're not gonna do anything about it. That's my point, is nobody.
No, that's not true. Give me the opportunity to do something.
Mr. Jackson has one more comment about the budget.
This is what we really wanted to do today, is to pass out some numbers. We have not made any decisions yet. The plan is to make them at the November 15th meeting. we want input from everybody as we've gotten this morning. And what I would suggest, that the next meeting we'll have some more discussion about it in November. So if you know any people who would like to attend and get involved and express their opinion, now is the time to do it. And obviously, we're not gonna please everybody because we have the extremes right here, so we're gonna have to.
And my whole thing, and I'll close with this too, I'm most certainly open to negotiations on adjusting the millage. But I'm not open for negotiation for no millage. Because we do have roads that need to be fixed and they need to be done now.
Did the salaries get increased? Just a question. Is the proposed salary increase in here?
I didn't get a raise.
No, there's no
Not
salary
only
increases in I've been
salaries,
looking
the
at.
auditors.
No.
Because I heard him say,
Just the audit.
The auditors.
Oh, they're gonna get more hours.
More hours.
What he was talking about.
Same
Not a
pay.
salary
Same
increase,
pay.
more hours.
More hours.
Yeah.
okay, but the secretary or the road, no increase for,
Not in this budget, no.
no.
Mr. Chairman, if I may make one comment, and it's kind of related to what you said about Brent Road, you thought it should be a private road. Some of my other townships have vacated roads in similar situations like this, dead-end roads. The two individuals, the husband and wife, if you can get those 11 property owners to agree to have that a private road, you can vacate it.
That's not, they don't own that road.
It's not the same.
That's on Irish Town.
Yeah, they live on Irish Town.
Well, what I'm saying is though, Brent Road said there's only 11 houses on there, I don't.
Leonard Sykes is never gonna agree
That's
with
never
that, you're trying to.
Okay, all right, well, I just, I mean, some of my other. Okay, well, Mr. No, the only thing that has happened in some of the other townships, the residents have actually put up a gate on the road, and, you know, they have a lot of privacy. It's their road, no one can travel on it. Now, the downside is they gotta pay for the plowing and the maintenance, but they don't, in order to have, they were having, that situation, they have a lot of problems with kids partying and things like that. Okay. And so, you had said you thought it should always be a private road. So I just thought I wanted to mention that.
Well, I probably said more than I should have, but I was looking at when it was established, and my mind started working overtime, and I think some political pressure was used to make it a public road.
Well, you do have that legal option if you ever want to vacate it.
Okay.
One last question, I've asked it several times now, and when you said somebody would be here today to be able to answer, when was the last time any maintenance was done on Winchalk Road? I've owned it since '95, the property there, my brother-in-law's owned 90 acres on it since 1980.
We painted a stripe on it.
I know that was 6 years ago, and I still want to go back over.
Nobody gets to sell that all they did last.
That was
It was in the 80s, I remember.
It was after that, we chipped that road, I can't remember the exact year.
Oh, that's right, 90s. Yeah, it
We
was
did
90s.
check
I
that
moved
road.
there in the 80s.
We did some base repair, him and I did some base repair when it washed out.
We better move on to new business, because Mr. Barlow, I think he has to leave at 1, so.
1/3.
Okay, sorry.
Now,
Yeah, and as Mr. Jackson said, we'll review this more before November 15th.
gonna need a bigger room.
Issue. Okay, moving on to new business. We have a tax collector and a treasurer that have been selected or requested to attend a conference in Hanover.
Yes, I'm not excited about going, but I'm still a treasurer for Cato. It'll be my last year, so they're kind of requiring me to attend. It's $10, and we've actually already approved the expense for the dinner, but it's just basically approving our attendance.
We don't need to make any further
You
motion.
can, you can make a
I'll make a
motion.
motion then that
Thank
the
you.
tax collector and treasurer attend the Cato meeting.
I'll second it. Okay, go ahead.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. All right, item B is a request for waiver from Raven Rock Stormwater Management Section 304. We have our zoning officer here stay with us if we have any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, we have Kelly Cole here. She is
Oh.
representing,
Oh,
Riley Wilson.
Yes, ma'am, I'm the engineer at record for the drawing stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I can answer any questions that you guys may have about the project.
what, is it a building addition that you're considering?
No, sir, they're improving some of their security features at the two gates,
Oh,
at the two entrance gates. So we're adding, a little bit more asphalt. And because of where the project is in relation to the property line, there's not a whole lot of room, based on some of the guidance that they have given us, the facility has given us to put a whole lot of stormwater management, BMPs in place to meet the requirements. We've done as much as we can, but we're here asking for a waiver. for some of the zones.
Wasn't there, if I remember, the KPI's comments were something along the line of, I believe they recommended both waivers, and the reason being that what this new work will do is will help the stormwater, the current situation for the adjoining landowners. I think that was part of their comment.
That was.
Yeah.
We're adding stormwater where there wasn't, so we are adding stormwater features, it's just not enough to meet the requirements.
The KPI said it will help the current situation.
It's an improvement rather than a worsening.
So they recommended granting the waivers.
Based on that, I would make a motion that we grant the waiver.
A second.
Okay, so let's just do the, so you're granting the first waiver for
Right.
section 304, and
Correct.
Mr. Jackson made the motion, and Mr. Riley seconded.
Yes.
I'll make the motion for the second.
yeah, and,
Well, we gotta do one at a time, I guess.
motion on item B, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Item C, request for waiver from the Waiver Management, section 305.A.
Make a motion that we give them a waiver for that.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. And item D, request for waiver. Oh, this is from SGI.
That's correct,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And similarly, we had a recommendation from KPI
KPI
for the waiver.
recommended that we approve it, and I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Okay. Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, item E, zoning violation request for extension, Palmer. Any comments?
Well, my comment is this is the third year that they requested this, and I haven't seen a whole lot of work done up there. I don't know that we want to continue to send this message that you can continue not to do anything, and we continue to give you a waiver. I know that from our zoning officer's standpoint, if we continue to allow this to go on, he has no authority or no ability to enforce even the waiver. I mean, we give them extended times. I don't know what's took them so long, in 3 years. They haven't complied. I don't know if they just haven't complied or they just don't want to. So,
They have been in constant contact with the township, sending us,
Photograph?
well, the photos came from our former zoning officer.
My photos as well, sir.
Okay, and Mr. Palmer explained that last year he experienced an injury and had to undergo surgery, and so he lost a couple months' work. And of course, the year before was just about too wet to do anything. And I keep thinking about the experience the township had when we took the last property when we were in court, and how much we paid the taxpayers' money, and we got nothing in return.
some progress. It's still, compared to 2 years ago, he has, you were here 2 years ago.
The pictures that I took, I started providing service to this township in December of last year. And that was one of the very first places I was asked to go look at.
No.
So I have pictures from, I believe, the 10th or 19th of December of last year. I'm not seeing any progress. I've spoken to the gentleman, I've stopped and visited with him numerous times this year, trying to reinforce to him that this needed to be resolved by the end of this year, because that was the guidance that was given me by the board at that point. I'm not seeing much progress.
Well, my eyeballs see it a little differently. I've driven by there and looked at it. It's not quite as junky as it used to look. He's obviously made some efforts to clean it up. He has had some problems, and he has had some setbacks with illness and so forth. And I don't think we're in business to harass people. I understand we can't let it go on indefinitely, but I'm inclined to be in favor of giving him one more chance and making it pretty clear that this is the last time we can extend it. Now, that's being extra lenient. The downside, as John mentioned, is that they go to court, and that was an awful expense and a real mess last time. I'm afraid we'd be getting into the same thing, and we wouldn't be able to pay us anyway, probably. Well, I would be in favor of granting one.
Put that in form of a motion.
I'll put it in form of a motion, I grant.
I'll second it. I'll second that motion.
I wish you'd been my father. Wow.
Pardon?
I wish you'd been my
He's
father.
just moving that stuff.
I wish you'd not, your father?
You know that, right? He's just moving that stuff. He's not cleaning it up, he's just moving it farther back on the property.
We've seen the receipts from the
It's still not a picture.
And he's burning
Postcard.
copper. He's burning copper wire up there. I went to Harbaugh's to buy produce, and he had the sky polluted with black smoke and toxic fumes. It's dangerous up there.
What do the pictures show the difference?
I don't know why the neighbors aren't in here raising hell. If I lived up there, I'd be in here raising hell.
Well, obviously, it's a matter of opinion. I made a motion, and
Yep, and I seconded it. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
The,
what is that, no, or yes, or
no,
no?
she does, no, I don't agree.
No, okay.
All right, item F, junkyard permit application for Mr. Gladhill. Karen, do you have something you want to?
I do, sir, if I may. I was asked to look into a violation present at this property. Both the chief of police and I were contacted and asked to look into an issue on the 25th of September. We made a site visit. I spoke first with Mr. Gladhill's daughter. Then later in the day, met with Mr. Gladhill himself. There are a number of outstanding violations on the property. Numerous unregistered, uninspected vehicles. There is a travel trailer that's being stored right next to the property line at the front, in the front yard of this property, right next to the property line. That was one of the key portions that initiated the complaint. So at that point, and you all were copied on this notice of violation that was prepared and sent to him on.
You said complaint, what was the nature of the complaint?
The nature of the complaint was.
Was it you, or that's how I read it?
No, sir, this was from one of the residents in the neighborhood.
Okay.
It actually came,
Oh, I saw that.
yeah, it came from their attorney. So these pictures in this letter was the notice of violation that was sent to Mr. Gladhill from the initial visit on the 25th of September. I explained to Mr. Gladhill that the unlicensed and uninspected vehicles are a violation. I clearly illustrated to him that the camper being stored in the front yard was a violation. I tried to explain to him that zoning issues, there isn't a traditionally a leeway. You're in violation. This is an established, adopted policy that the township has adopted, and there's generally not a great deal of leeway to get those things complied with. I always try to get voluntary compliance. It's one of the things I spoke to you all about when I first started. In the letter, I gave him 15 days to comply and specifically told him where some of the deficiencies were. Mainly, and the biggest issue at this point in time is the camper. Again, this is stored in his front yard. That's the picture from yesterday, because it is still present. That was from one day last week. He was given, I gave him 15 days for compliance from the 25th of September, so he had until the 10th of October to remove that. This is the original picture from the 25th of September. You can see this has not been moved yet. So that violation is still outstanding. Again, it's a willful violation at this point. He was told that was not permitted and that it needed to be relocated and moved.
Just out of curiosity,
He's got 14, yeah, there's chickens there.
Chickens, okay.
Chickens and goats.
out of curiosity,
Yeah,
what is being violated there? What law or what?
Your outdoor
I'm not in
storage,
favor of it or supporting it, I just wondered what,
your outdoor storage ordinance does not permit campers to be stored in front yard.
oh, camper. It's not the sign on the camper. It's-
Has nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Yeah. May not be stored in any front yard unless located within a driveway. 302 outdoor storage.
And that trailer is not sitting on the.
No, sir, it is not. It's parked in the yard at the edge of the property, aimed at the driveway of the neighbors, along with the subliminal message or the not so subtle message that's painted on the sidewalk.
What's the connection between the violations of the ordinance that now exist and an application for junkyard?
When I met with Mr. Gladhill, I explained to him that, he's got numerous unlicensed,
All right, Mr. Katz is speaking.
he's got numerous unlicensed and uninspected vehicles on his property. Your ordinance states that once it becomes more than 3 of those, the requirements of the junkyard ordinance are then triggered. So I articulated that to Mr. Gladhill. Your options are to be permitted as a junkyard. I explained to him that there's going to be setback requirements, there's going to be screening requirements, there's going to be things that are going to have to be done. But in order to get this issue into compliance, he either had to remove the unlicensed and uninspected vehicles, get them permitted and inspected, or apply for a permit to operate a junkyard. In your junkyard ordinance, both on your application and in your ordinance, it speaks at length about the need to adhere to established policies. On the application, you have a spot there saying that I will adhere to the requirements in the ordinances. My recommendation for this particular application is not to approve it because he is constantly and consistently illustrating that he is not regarding established municipal ordinances and procedures.
Could you pass them pictures around?
Question?
Could you pass the pictures around?
The pictures.
The pictures.
Yeah. I don't have any pictures.
It's part of a criminal investigation, so you don't have to release them. You can if you want to. I guess it looks like you took those from the road.
This is the gravel driveway that goes back to the properties.
I guess, can anybody go back there and take a
Yes, they
look?
can.
Yeah, if you want, you can go back and take a look at it if you want, sir.
It's your call whether I show these or not.
In the interest of transparency, I would prefer to have them
Yeah, I don't.
hand out to anybody who wants to look at
I
them.
don't have a problem. Just following instructions.
Some of the other issues I would probably have with a junkyard, specifically a junkyard with automobiles and stuff, we already have one at the bottom of the lane that we're having a very difficult time getting cleaned up. We've been doing this for 3 years now with this particular gentleman. If we allow a junkyard to go on the top of the hill, my question is, where is that oil, that gas, that Freon and stuff gonna go except downhill and contaminate anybody that's below its well, stream, because I know there's a stream there.
There is.
So is this person going to be able to put up a bond where if these things happen, and EPA comes in and makes this township clean it up, and they will make us clean it up, is he gonna put up a $10 million bond to clean it up? Because if not, we will. And I don't think that's good on anybody's part. You start contaminating the waterways, and this guy, as you have said, has indicated before, he's not caring about what our ordinance says. And our ordinance says that you must drain all fluids from these vehicles. You must put up fencing, which we've already been through a fencing ordinance with this particular person, and he was not allowed to put a fence up, so now we're gonna allow him to put a fence up? Because our junkyard ordinance says they have to have a fence up, a minimum of 6 feet. And then we also have an ordinance in our township about impact businesses. This will most certainly impact the residents around it when you're dragging junk vehicles up and down the road onto a private lane. So we're going to be responsible for any leakage of any fluids that come out of that as it's coming up the lane? Yeah?
Again, you're looking at, you're speaking about the entire scope of some of the issues that you've had at that property.
And we could have more.
And everyone knows that there's been issues in that neighborhood. Whenever I met with the gentleman on the 25th, obviously there's a strong history and there's some discontent between neighbors. The vast majority of which is a civil issue, not a municipal issue, and no matter how many times we try to articulate that, that doesn't always get through. This was my first direct involvement, other than a few phone calls over a burning issue with Mr. Glandell. He was very unhappy to greet me that afternoon. Again, I had been at the property, had spoken to his daughter, the police chief and I had both gone. She was very irate and uncooperative. Came back here, I was reviewing, saving some pictures and dating some things, and when he called and asked me to come back, so we ended up going back to the property. Again, he was very irate from the second we showed up, arguing with the legitimacy of the established policies, and, well, why can't I do this? It's like, sir, I'm not here to have that argument with you. What I'm here to say is, and I took him printed copies of the ordinance showing where that travel trailers are not allowed to be stored in front of you. Took him a copy of the junkyard ordinance saying, if you decide to do this, this is the requirement you're going to have to adhere to. I always try to bring a solution along with a problem. It's not always received well. That was the attempt that was made. Again, I gave him 15 days to voluntarily comply with the provisions of the legally adopted ordinance, which, as we said, he has chosen not to comply with. My concern on the junkyard application and the junkyard application alone is that he has established that he has little regard for our established policies. So that would be my lone concern in pertaining to that particular junkyard application. That's my opinion.
I don't want no junkyard back there beside my property.
Your name, please, sir?
Leon Harbaugh.
Oh.
And the second thing is, you put a junkyard in there, you're ruining the value of everybody's property around there. Everybody. I don't like that. I never fought with my neighbors. I always tried to help, but I don't want no damn junkyard. And them pictures, if you don't do nothing about it, you ought to put them in the Pennsylvania tourist magazine. This is the way Liberty Township wants their residents to act.
If you can glance at your junkyard ordinance copies that we gave you under section 5.
Yep.
And that gives you the abilities on the things that you can consider.
One eyewitness also, I've driven up that driveway, and going up that driveway before you turn to Gladwell's property, as you come off the road, there's a house, I don't know who owns the house, and it is an obvious, I don't know, that would be my definition of a junkyard.
They just gave him a year extension, that's who they're talking about. Mr.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that, but I'm just saying, if you want to, that is also there, also.
We had an issue at this particular property, I want to say about 2 months or so ago, with a burning complaint. The gentleman from DEP, Brian, give me a second. gentleman out of the Harrisburg office of the
Okay.
DEP came, and him and I went to the location several times. He spoke with the Glad Hills numerous times because there were unauthorized items being burned on his property. That pile had since been cleaned up, so the unauthorized items, the treated woods, the things that shouldn't be burned outside, that was all with a significant amount of effort that was eventually alleviated. Again, this particular time, he's not making any efforts towards voluntary compliance.
Okay.
Item B is,
We got another comment, go ahead, Sherry Kite.
Sherry Pike. I just want to take just a couple minutes just to give my thoughts and input on it after looking at the ordinances yesterday. You guys already, most of it, they already touched on, but I'm looking at the junkyard ordinance, and in the ordinance, it talks about, to get part 3, which I think Karen was talking about, no person shall engage or continue to engage in a business as a junk dealer or establish or maintain a junkyard in the township, except as authorized by this chapter and without first having obtained a license from the board. Okay, that hasn't been done. With whether the application for a license, you have to, whether the applicant has been convicted within a period of 3 years of doing any crime involving the unlawful taking, receipt, etc. of the junkyard. Step 5 is really a good part, issuance of the license, where it says that the board, upon its fullest consideration, has to take into consideration the character of the property adjacent there too, which would be residential properties, because it is a conservation district, so they're all residential and of course farm. Then the effect of the proposed use, of course, that's going to be downgrading, like Leon said, of our property values, plus the effect of the contaminants running downhill into wells and into that stream. Biggest thing here is I'm looking at is the zoning. It says that the board would take into fullest consideration about the zoning of where the junkyard would be proposed. The junkyard is being proposed, I understand that this procedure, but it says the zoning, it's a conservation area. In conservation, if you look in our Article 1, it talks about the purpose, and it says it's to prevent overcrowding for conservation of land, prevent congestion in travel and transportation. Junkyard's not going to heat that. Then we go and we establish the zones in 108, 109 in the zoning map. So somebody thought it was important to establish different zoning districts to serve different areas for different purposes. Our Article 2 says provide reasonable residential development. B says encourage residential development designs that protect environmentally sensitive areas. So, and then our county ordinance says about the same thing. It says it's the intent of the article is to conserve and protect open space and agricultural areas to enhance the rural character of the appropriate portions of Adams County, to preserve open land by setting development apart from central natural features such as slopes, streams, protect our groundwater supplies, etc. There is a section 105 is about a conflict. If there's a conflict, and which maybe someone can enlighten me on that, but I'm taking it the way I am, but if somebody can correct me, that in 105 it says, it is not intended by this ordinance, which is the general zoning ordinance, to repeal, abrogate, annul, or interfere with any existing ordinances or enactment, or with any rule, regulation, or permit adopted or issued thereunder, except insofar as the same may be inconsistent or in conflict with any of the provisions of this ordinance, provided that where this ordinance imposes greater restrictions upon the use of the building or land than are required by the provisions of other such ordinance, enactment, rule, regulation, or permit, then the provision of this ordinance shall control, meaning the main zoning ordinance, not something that was adopted like the junkyard ordinance at a later date. That, and if you look in the junkyard ordinance under regulations, it talks about premises shall not be should be maintained at all times, and it talks about for not being a breeding ground for rodents. I don't know, but I'm sure a junkyard is going to be a breeding ground for rodents. There's no road frontage for that business. That place of business is going to be up off of the road on a private lane, back behind a bunch of residential houses that it's connected to. The lane is a private lane, of course. We all know about that subject.
but it's for egress and egress for to and from. You know, it's not like a built-in highway so they can drop off cars. I don't know about the other homeowners all along that road down further, because that stream we're talking about runs all the way down to 16. So we have Steph George in there with her pond and horses and chickens. We have the longhorns down at the bottom that drink from that stream that goes down through there. They have access to that. Think about this. I mean, I'm just asking for you to think about it. Really quick, I have 2 more points. If you give a junkyard permit to anybody who doesn't want to clean up junk, then we're going to have, in areas where we should be conserving it, then everybody who doesn't want to clean up around their house is going to apply for a junkyard permit. So the only thing I'm saying, is with all due respect, is that I would like to request that the board not issue the junkyard permit for 605 or any other resident within the conservation district, so as to keep the conservation district in the zoning ordinance to the character of what it's supposed to be. I'm sorry?
There's one point that I want to make here, and it's more for this body's benefit. The township has established zoning ordinances, and each of them had a name, okay? I get calls a great deal from people saying, well, what am I allowed to do in the conservation district? They think that there's a great deal more restrictions just because of the name of the zoning district. And what you need to understand is that it is simply the name of a zoning district.
It doesn't mean
It
anything?
doesn't mean that there's more restrictions in that district than anywhere else. It simply is the name of that zoning district. Okay, it's just that simple. Because there's a great deal of things that are permitted uses in that zoning district. And again, that's a very common mistake that people see it referred to and entitled the conservation zoning district. So I get people that call me and say, well, what is it that I'm allowed to do there? Well, here's your entire list of permitted uses. That is simply the name of the zoning district.
So we really don't need any district. We could take that part out of the zoning ordinance book, because if it doesn't mean anything, if you can put a business in conservation.
Wait, this isn't for inner discussion. Mr. Katz has made his comments, you've made yours, and now it's time for the board to consider.
How about me?
Unless someone else has, well,
At Clifton Heights, 607 Marble Valley Road. That private road is 10-foot wide, private road going up, and there's Leon's house is the first one, and Crane's house is the second one. On the opposite side of the road, Brian and Sherry owns a mobile home on that side, and they own a home on the left-hand side. The Gladhill Lane goes back between my property and Crane's property. Okay, and the private road comes on up to my house, and that's the end of the private road. Okay, you can't be running all kinds of heavy trucks up and down a private road, destroying that private road for a commercial business. In other words, and all the dust. In other words, all the houses up and down there, all the dust that they would stir up running these trucks in and out. And Leon has a pond on his property right directly below that. When any runoff, anything that they dump on the ground that are less run on the ground, antifreeze, oil, any kind of grease, will be right down on his property. Then you go on down to the Palmer's property, and in the Palmer's property, there's a spring, correct?
There's a spring back there, yeah, goes down through the valley.
And that spring is the starting of the street, the small stream or creek that runs further down to Route 16 and hooks up down there. So it's not isolated, and it's all down. The Gladhill property is a steep property that would throw everything on down onto the other people. And you know, you have to have it for a commercial business. You have to have a situation where you're not impacting everybody else around. And there was a fence, in other words, he's talking about they have to put up a fence. He got a permit from Liberty Township to put up a 10-foot fence on the front of his property. Then he was stopped. He was stopped because it had to be 4 foot high. Did he ever take the post out? No. In other words, he goes in violation of one thing after another, and he gets away with it.
Thank you very much for that comment.
Yeah,
May I just ask Mr. Katz one question? Do you, and I'm not sure how the board is going to vote, but do you feel as though that there's enough legal justification for the board to deny this permit if that is their decision? Based on the ordinances that we have?
I believe the way the junkyard ordinance is put together and the dialogue that's actually in the application permit, whenever this ordinance was adopted, there was some emphasis placed on the applicant making sure they're aware that they are required to comply with these regulations. And I think they put a little extra emphasis in that because there is a statement to that point even on the application itself. And I think this applicant has shown that he doesn't have any regard for the established municipal ordinances. Does that answer your question, sir?
I think you're saying that if they decide to deny it, you think that they have legal grounds to deny it?
I think I can make the argument that the applicant in the application process has already illustrated that he has no regard for the established municipal ordinances.
Well, and I, based on what I'm hearing here from the other residents there, I think we also have some good grounds under section 5.
Yes.
So if
I do agree that section
if
5
they decide-
is the enforceable section of that, where the body, if they so choose, can defend whatever side they take.
Especially the private drivers.
Exactly.
You know.
I think there's
and
numerous
street
issues
districts.
here.
Okay.
I think there's
I
numerous
just wanted to make sure we had that on the record.
Thank you.
I'm not sure where you're headed, but
Well,
in case you do decide to deny it.
those are all good questions. All right, what's the board's pleasure on,
I would definitely make a motion that we deny this applicant for a junkyard.
One more point. You're saying that the board can sue him. No, you're saying in plain English that he can sue the board if they refuse to grant unless they show good cause. Is that what you just said in plain English?
To deny this permit, I mean.
If they deny it and he disagrees, you're saying he does not have good cause to come back on the board and cause the board to pay legal fees to defend the township for refusing the permit. Did I say that?
Well, I mean, anybody can sue. I'm not, you know, we've had 5 minutes of testimony here, and we haven't heard from the other side.
Well, that's my
Maybe
point.
20 minutes of testimony. I mean, so I can't make a decision because we haven't heard from the other side. I asked Mr. Katz whether or not he felt as though there was sufficient grounds, and he indicated that there was for a couple of reasons, so.
Okay, 5 seconds to play devil's advocate. If you grant the permit, he doesn't follow the regulations after the permit is granted. Now you can throw away the lock.
Well,
According to this
that's true, but the
junkyard, according to the junkyard
I'm
ordinance,
just
you know,
saying,
you can read it.
You're assuming he's not going to comply. What I hear is you're assuming this person is not going to comply because of his previous history.
That's one part of it, but the second part of it is whether or not this site is a suitable site in and of itself for a junkyard. And if you look at,
Now, the other thing is, there was grandfather clauses way back when this was established also. I'm not saying one way or the other, I'm just trying to get it in my brain.
grandfather clauses apply to zoning, but they don't apply to junkyard ordinances.
Okay, well, I just wanted to bring up that point that if
I mean, unless it
if the
specifically
board,
says there in the junkyard ordinance.
if the board refuses the permit, then the landowner is not gonna come after the board
I can't
for refusing the permit and have grounds. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because that's more taxes to pay you yourself.
Well, the other side of it is if they grant the permit, you have a few residents in here, that can also sue the township.
Okay, well,
It works both ways. You got the limit, and you
I got a
got
quarter here, you can, I'll let you flip it and call it.
I'm gonna just make one comment, I don't believe the board should should make a decision on based on whether they're gonna be sued or not sued.
That's
We should base it on the ordinances and the testimony from Darren, Mr. Katz, and from what you've heard from the other members of the audience. The other person is not here. He must have known that he had a chance to come here, so.
Thank you.
I vote for you.
Well, there's Mr.
Okay,
Mr. Barlow made a motion to deny.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Barlow had made a motion that we not grant.
And that's for the reasons stated by Mr. Katz and the
Yes. And Mr.
input
Jackson,
from the audience.
Mr. Jackson has seconded that. So, that motion made and seconded, all in favor?
All right.
Are you gonna prepare a letter?
What's my
And
question?
I think you have 15 days to do it, or how, there's a.
Me or you, Wendy?
15, you can go ahead and do it. Or-
One other question, does he get his permit fee back?
Yeah, I think that's an application fee, I don't think that's,
No.
that's
And you can give it back to him if you want, I don't believe you're required to.
Because I have billed you for costs,
Yes, yes.
for reviewing
I'm
site
thinking-
visits and all of those
I'm
things, so
thinking of that.
you have incurred fees processing that application,
I'm thinking
I don't think-
whether it was approved or not.
We've gone through that too.
Yes.
We've spent.
You've already spent the money.
Correct, I've already spent the money.
Cindy, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Back in, when Mr. Jackson appointed the Citizens Advisory Committee,
Oh,
we reviewed the junkyard ordinance and the junkyard that was in the township at the time, which is Piper, and I see that he's in here for a permit application too. Is he opening another?
No, it's here for renewal.
It's
for
up for
renewal.
it's an annual renewal.
Okay, so back then, we gave y'all a recommendation that we thought that you should be doing quarterly inspections on these places and that you should be getting at least $1 million liability insurance policy from these guys. And y'all didn't do anything at that point. And during that process, we did a little bit of research and I ran across a thing where you have to get your license for junkyards from the state of Pennsylvania. So how is the township issuing junkyard permits when they have to come from the state? A license for a junkyard has to come from the state of Pennsylvania.
I think it's a different kind of junkyard. I
So
think you're-
Auto salvage,
It's auto salvage.
okay, so you're just gonna let them open a junkyard, period? And I thought that that's what Piper had, is he had a auto salvage junkyard.
I would call it that.
Okay, so if he has an auto salvage junkyard and he has no license from the state of Pennsylvania for it, how's it in our township? Because you're giving him a license for something.
I don't, maybe he does have a license from the state, I don't know if he does or he doesn't, I don't know anything, I don't know, who knows?
Nothing in our ordinance or in our application where we would discover that.
And if he doesn't have a license from the state, that's between him and the state, we don't have any authority to enforce state regulations.
That's what I would think.
I mean,
Okay,
so if you don't think he has a license from the state, contact the state agency that handles that, just like, you know, there are certain things with.
That's the license.
Darren, is Mr. Piper in compliance?
Has not had, I had one issue that I stopped and spoke to him earlier this year for a few vehicles that were outside, they were immediately taken care of. I have no problem.
He's still got trucks in his front yard.
He does have vehicles in the front,
He's allowed.
antique vehicles that are for sale.
Yes, he's allowed.
That is not a
Some.
violation, any portion of that ordinance.
Okay, so he also has
I
auto
have no
sales.
problem with you renewing.
And his fence is all established.
Intact,
There and
6
everything.
feet of screening is in place, yes.
So he has auto sales as well as junkyard.
Anyone's allowed to sell a car in the front yard.
Does he crush the vehicles, dude?
No.
So I don't know if, yeah, he might not come under the state regulations, I don't know. Whether he does.
A licensed vehicle or an unlicensed vehicle? So I can load my front yard up with unlicensed vehicles to sell?
You'd have to get a junkyard permit.
More than 3 of them, you need a junkyard permit.
That's right.
Interesting.
They have been completely in compliance with anything that's been asked of them. I have no problems with that permit being renewed, sir.
Well, I make a motion that we approve Mr. Piper's application for renewal. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
I have one question. Who's gonna write the letter, Mr. Palmer?
Oh, Wendy.
No, there.
You gonna write a letter, or you want one of the supervisors to do it, or a lawyer, what do you think?
I will do whatever you ask me to do, sir.
Okay. We'll table that question for the vote.
Again, and I think Mr. Lisco's 100% correct, we only have a certain amount of days to get a response to it.
Yeah, 15.
You were talking about the other one.
He's talking about Palmer.
I'm talking about Palmer.
Palmer.
Palmer, the guy that said-
I will write the letter to
I'm sorry.
Palmer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you also want me to write the letter based on the board's motion? I can write the other letter too. It was-
No, let Darren do it, let
Do
Darren
the
do
junkyard.
the Glad
Yeah,
Hill, the
I'll-
Glad Hill denial.
Yeah.
Would you like me to send that to you for review?
It's up to you, I think you should, because it is a denial, and we wanna make sure it's done right, so we don't get sued, that's what I mean.
Which one are you talking about, the junkyard?
I'm talking about Glad
Yeah.
Hill, yeah. No, I'll try not to spend too much time on it.
Is that okay with the
How long
body?
did y'all extend Palmer for?
A year, I think.
1 year.
Another year?
Is it okay with the body that I share my denial letter with Mr. Lisco, and let him take a look at it before we get to it?
Whatever.
Is it okay with that?
But that's the last one.
Okay,
That's what they said last year.
item 8, under new business, refers to Planning Commission Secretary compensation. A little bit of history on this. We used to have our secretary present at the Planning Commission meetings, and they got paid for that amount of time that they were there. And we changed policies a little bit. The Planning Commission appointed their own secretary, and she's doing tons of work now and not getting any compensation. So Wendy sent an email out to other municipalities soliciting the question what they pay their Planning Commission secretary. And I think the range was anywhere from $25 to $50 per meeting. And so with those numbers in mind, I make a motion that we compensate our duly elected Planning Commission secretary for being paid for each meeting an amount of, what's the board's pleasure? For the amount.
You're making the motion.
Well, as to a number, you can help me fill it in with some advice. I don't know, anywhere from $25 to $50.
The meetings usually go 2 hours. And then she's probably spends at least another 2 hours developing those minutes. But then she does memos to Mr. Lisco, memos to the board. That's a fair amount of time. And also she does very detailed, almost process recording minutes, which was the wish of the planning commission, so that if somebody in time wanted to go back and look at the minutes, you can actually see what was really in the discussion, rather than just a motion was made, seconded, and whatever.
Well, Wendy prepares good minutes, I'm just curious, Wendy, how long does it take you to prepare minutes for after a meeting?
These meetings, that's a different story. It took me 5 hours to do the meetings from the last meeting. I don't know. It depends. Planning Commission doesn't have as many topics, so it's.
Well, but they have they do have good minutes.
They do, and I don't know how long it takes for, I think it would have taken me maybe 2 hours, hour or 2 hours to do the planning when I was doing them.
That's in addition to sitting there during the meeting,
True.
writing everything down.
Yeah, it would take an hour or 2 hours to do the planning.
And I can tell you, she was unable to attend the last meeting, so both, I was chairman, but I was trying to take minutes, and Jeff was taking minutes, and it's taken us about the month meetings tonight, the minutes came out yesterday, so.
So if we made a recommendation of $100 per meeting,
I
or
think-
that would be.
I think
many meetings a month?
I think one. I think 50 would be.
$50 a meeting, and that included everything?
I think so.
I was gonna say 40, but I'll go with 50.
Could you do what the auditors get, $10 an hour, or just let her submit?
Yeah, I think hourly would require to do detailed time sheets.
Yeah.
Right.
Ah, okay, I just,
We're saying per meeting, not per hour, per meeting.
The meeting goes 4 hours or.
4 hours,
an hour.
$40. Split the
And I
difference.
would like to adjust my motion to say, to begin at tonight's planning commission meeting.
Okay, effective this evening. Okay, on the 15th.
I just want to, on your motion, you said duly elected, it's really appointed.
Yes.
Actually, no, she's elected in January, we elect the secretary.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that's what you meant.
Yeah.
No, that would be appointed, that's not elected. Elected is the ballot box.
Okay, so you're
That's
right.
the point.
Okay, thank you for correcting me. Yeah, I meant
Good point.
appointed.
Now,
The planning commission.
Okay, so
Some
that's-
semblance of propriety.
that's your motion. Now, my question is, when someone else does her job, do they get paid? If she doesn't make it to the meeting.
If we're saying you're appointed, then it's only the person that's.
So if you would fill in, you wouldn't get money.
No,
Okay,
but
I just
during
want to
the
be
time
very
it's
clear.
It's
And-
called volunteer.
I think that would be the fairest way.
Okay, just pay the appointed secretary. Okay.
And remember, the rest of us have said that we're not taking, money for our positions, which is,
Yeah, that's a savings to the township.
Okay. And then, okay, so we have a motion. Okay, yeah.
Do I have a second for my motion?
Yeah, well, I'll say that.
Okay,
Will I go in a new budget?
motion made and seconded.
Yes,
All in favor?
it's $50, right?
50, yes, per meeting. All right, last item under new business. Solar farms zoning.
Got a call a couple, maybe 3 weeks ago from a gentleman from a solar company over in the Humboldtown area, asking what our requirements were. So I told him I would get back to him, and the more research I did, the more I found we didn't have any. Email with Wendy back and forth, and it's just not listed anywhere under permitted uses.
Well, when the new zoning ordinance was adopted, they were.
It's very possible that it just wasn't even on the radar.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mr. Wisco was involved at the time or two in that email chain. When I got back to the gentleman, the only answer that I could give him was that you would, it's not specifically listed, which means by definition, it has to be allowed everywhere. And all you have to do is look at the underlying zoning issues for whatever district. I tried to get information on the scope of the project and the location of the project. It was purposely vague with all that information. So how big or where it was, I still can't advise. He did ask the question about how could he speak to this body to get that listed as a permitted use. I suggested that he come to the meeting today. I asked him to call Wendy and get placed on the agenda for something to discuss today. Obviously, he didn't do so. But just to make you aware, this is something on the radar that it isn't going to be, fire is one of what I've gotten so far, if it's not going to be our last one, I'm sure.
Okay, do we want to authorize the zoning, the planning commission to look into it? Is that what you're
I was
suggesting?
gonna say the same thing.
Okay.
Because I looked a little bit, and I've seen it has in about electrical grids and stuff like that, and had some windmills and stuff like that, but didn't have particularly solar. But it's alternative energy, which solar would be an alternative energy.
And you included some of the, was it Shippensburg Township?
Yeah, Shippensburg,
When I looked at that, it looked like it was rather, looks like it's.
Yeah, we should probably make sure the planning commission members, I sent that, you got it, right, Wendy? The Shippensburg
I don't know,
Township?
I'll ask you for it, I'll check.
Yeah.
So you want me to get this Shippensburg, I'll get it, Shippensburg?
Yeah, it was one of the attachments that he sent back to us on one of the
Yeah,
communications.
Shippensburg, it might be the borough, it was attached to one of my emails, they have it in there.
Is it a full zoning? It's in the full zoning, it's not a separate ordinance? Okay,
Yes, that's right, it's in their zoning ordinance.
all right. So it's more than
So solar farm, you're talking about like the guy on Mount St. Mary's.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know.
oh, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
I had
Have
the
you ever
impression,
seen it?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Huge.
monstrous.
I had the impression this was gonna be like a large scale kind of thing. But again, the gentleman posed the
I
question.
gotta wonder
was
about,
today.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. I gotta wonder, no, it's not rude on my part, but I gotta wonder about the stormwater issue that it creates, you know, stormwater runoff. Because all of a sudden you've got impervious surfaces everywhere.
You got an impervious on panel, but the ground underneath is not impervious.
That does count as a pretty.
Yeah, no,
But
but,
it's,
well, okay, there's 3 of these in 2 of my other towns. The panels rotate with the sun. So, even, the stormwater's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
How big are they?
How big are the panels?
The farm, the whole farm.
The whole farm, I think one's 133 acres, and others, 101. In one of my townships, they're pro-solar, so they didn't have a problem. One of the other townships was just the opposite. They think these things are, they think they are not very attractive, so they required screening all along the roads, screening from a couple of residential properties. They required all kinds of things, just like that ordinance, there's a decommissioning plan. There's a lot of pros and cons. So some people say, oh, well, you're ruining good farmland, and they say, well, no, we're not, because
30 years from now, it'll be turned back over as.
it'll be turned back, whereas if you put a housing development in there, it probably will never be farmland again, but the life expectancy of these are just 30 years. And then that's why they have the decommissioning plan, that they tear everything up and you can go back to farming again. So, but I don't know, would I like to live next to one? I don't know. And they have it, they're all designed so that if there's roads, there will be no glare from the sun on vehicles, and they have a fence around the whole property. They're all fenced in. Again, I don't, what do you want, a solar farm? Do you want somebody, do you want a solar farm? You want a nuclear power plant? You want a coal plant? You want big wires? You want big windmills? I mean,
That's just to make you.
okay. I mean, I think the Shippensburg ordinance has some reasonable regulations for it, and
I've seen articles in magazines, sheep magazines, that farmers have raised their sheep and
Yes,
goats under
yes,
them,
you
and
can.
they'll keep the weeds down and everything.
yes, you can do that.
So it's not a lost agriculture use, to put one of those
Right.
things in, you can still raise
I
a
agree.
small animal.
Sheep, I don't think that works with cows though.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna authorize the planning commission to look into this?
That's your motion?
Yes, that's my motion.
Second.
All right, thank you.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
All right.
Unless anyone has any other. I make a motion to adjourn.
I said so.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, Mr. Morrow, you go to return.
They need.